Graduated on Friday, went for a pickup and then back off.
I see his sister every once in a while at Eastern Cobb in Camden. He's a hard worker.
Graduated in Boston.
Yeah.
And goes to Wentworth.
We saw her this
Whoa,
summer
where'd that go?
down there.
I'll
Lily,
make a
yeah.
number.
Yeah.
Who's who? I know you. I know. Becky, nice to meet you. Didn't know so well. Call the town office.
am.
All right, well, it is hot on 6 p.m. Welcome everyone to the Lincolnville Select Board meeting. It is October 15th. Having had everything be closed yesterday, we're enjoying a meeting on a Tuesday, so thank you all for coming in. Before we get going, Kern, would you care to read the quote of the evening?
I would love to. Where is it? The only thing that is worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. Helen Keller.
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to open the podium for any non-agenda items.
I feel I would like to speak on a non-agenda item.
As a citizen?
What's that?
As a citizen?
As a citizen, do you need me to get up and go to the... My name is Kern Late. I live on 14 Heel Road. I just want to remind the people of the town of Lincolnville that we have volunteers as firefighters. We have policemen in the area and people who are trying to help people in need. I witnessed something this weekend that disturbed me. We had a first responder trying to get up the road that I live on, and there was someone who was in the driveway that backed out in front of that person, stopped in the road. One of our first responders, or one of our fire department members, had lights on and was trying to get by because of a tree that was down, and we had no idea, or they had no idea whether there was any other type of danger up there. They were trying to get there. The person who backed out in front of this fire department member took their time getting back into their driveway and then gave them the high sign as they went by. That disappointed me in a big way. People are volunteering their time for education to help people, and this is no way to be in this small town. And there's other things going on in this town that people are just making it difficult for people to make sure of other people's safety. I just want to remind people that you don't have to be that way. That isn't what this town is all about. If someone has got red lights on, they are permitted to have them. They have them on for a reason, because they can't have them on just to have a good time. Please don't give them a hard time. And I hope more people in this town hear this than just what's right here. And if somebody has any questions or concerns, I am reachable, and I do respond. So I appreciate being able to say this. I was very disappointed in what I saw. I see things like this on Main Street in Lincolnville and in our little town here, and I see them down towards the beach too. There's no need of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Anyone else for any non-agenda items? Seeing no one jumping up and down, we'll move along to the administrator's report.
Just to let everybody know, absentee ballots are available for November. Here at the town office, you all walk by a couple of voting booths we have set up out here if you wish to vote here, or you can take them with you with a little more paperwork and bring them back. They are due back by 8 p.m. on November 5th. Calderwood Lane is complete. Finished up the work at the end of last week. We will hold monies till next year for a warranty period, but we're done. Wrapping up some other things around town, shoulder work, some tree work, and some brush removal and whatever else, but believe it or not, winter's coming, and at some point you'll have our winter vendor, snowplow vendor will be in to chit-chat briefly with the board, should anybody have any questions. Speaking of wrapping up, we're going to take the swim floats out at Breezemere Park this week. The two adjacent to the launching ramp will be in for a period of time longer, but if you have some facilities of your own, Norton Pond, and you wish to utilize the town floats to assist you in getting your stuff out, the time is now. And finally, CMP is out and about trimming trees around power lines in various locations around town. I think we've all seen them, but just so you're aware, if you hadn't been aware. And finally, our revaluation company has started doing inspections. We've had two individuals here working primarily. They do have lanyards. They've got stickers on the side of their car. If you have any questions or concerns about if they're actually there, they also have a letter from yours truly. You can certainly call the town office. You're not required to allow them to do an inspection, but the more information they gather, the better the work will be versus them guessing from the road. But Robin's got a question. That's it for me.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, questions for David on the
Yes,
administrator's
I have
report?
a question. So we were visited by one of the inspectors this
Mhm.
week, and he did not want to go in the house. He said he didn't need to be in the house at all, which confused me because I thought that,
Confuses me too.
so I just.
I'm going to, I'll inquire.
Because I asked, I said, don't you want to come in? And he said, no, we're good.
Yeah, Steve.
I was just gonna say, this is going on in Rockport as well, a property I've got, and they were actually walking around the property, peering in windows. It's a different company, I know, but we just need to make sure that, I'm not sure how they should be acting or not, but I wouldn't wanna see anybody that we've hired walking
Yeah.
around and peering in windows without talking.
They should come to your door, knock on the door, identify themselves. They will take, if no one's home, they will take exterior measurements. If they're looking in your windows, we want to know. That's
So,
not
but
appropriate.
So with our company right now, does
Yeah.
the homeowner have to insist that they come inside?
Insist?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between
No.
invitation, would you like to come on inside, versus, hey, come inside, you are required by law.
No, they're not required to come in by law or anything else, but in order to get accurate information, and I'm kind of puzzled by the response you received. So till I have a conversation tomorrow, I can't contribute a whole lot more.
Will they be showing any identification?
They have identification with them.
Okay.
I don't know if they actually show that when they show up to your dooryard, but certainly if you ask them for it and they can't produce it, maybe you say no and close the door and then either call 911 or us or whatever.
And just a point of clarification with the tree trimming, you did tour where they were going to trim the trees with Bill Brown, right? And-
CMP is doing the entire circuit in Lincolnville over time, over the next couple of months. So no, we did not tour the entire circuit, but we did have a conversation with them and with the representative from Lucas Tree and the arborist for CMP.
Thanks. Anything else for David on the administrator's
Yeah,
report?
2 questions, follow up on that. This tree trimming, is CMP Lucas aware of the tree inventory that Conservation Commission did? Is that entering into conversation?
The Conservation Commission hasn't shared that with anybody.
Okay, I wasn't sure of that.
Us.
Okay, the second one has to do with going back to the IT, the town's IT server health.
Mhm.
I remember it was wobbly for a while. Is it back up online and healthy? Okay.
Operating as it should.
Okay.
Steve and I have had a conversation, and we're waiting some responses from Gusco, but we've got a plan.
Okay, yep, thanks.
It's just a matter of executing.
All right, thank you so much. And moving along to upcoming meetings and announcements.
All meetings are here at the town office unless announced otherwise. The Comprehensive Plan Review Committee meets Wednesday, October 16th, 6:30. Select Board has a workshop with the Heart and Soul team and the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee next Monday, October 21st at 5 p.m. Lakes and Ponds Committee scheduled to meet Tuesday, October 22nd, 7 p.m. And the Select Board meets next in regular session on Monday, October 28th, 6 p.m.
very much. Are there any upcoming community events anyone wishes to share? Seeing nothing, we'll move on to the meeting minutes from the 23rd of September.
I move the board approve the September 23rd, 2024 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. And we have Mr. Ladd here to chat with us about a noise concern. If you care to come up to the podium, please.
Hello, my name is Bruce Ladd, and yeah, I am here to complain about the gun range that was opened up on Green Acre Road. And my biggest question is, how come we weren't notified? Because I can see having a gun range for sighting in rifles and stuff, but when you have an open range and you have a shooting contest that lasts 8 to 10 hours, 3-4 times a year is ridiculous. Most people can pack up and take off for the day. Unfortunately, I can't do it that easily. Since my wife had her stroke, getting around is not easy. And having a place to go for the day where she's comfortable and just doesn't really work. And it's just annoying. Can't do nothing. Can't sit outside, enjoy the day. I mean, I'm 400 yards away and it's like he's sitting in my backyard. I got a neighbor down below me that's wide open field all the way to his house. So it is just ridiculous at his house compared to mine. It's twice as loud. And then he lights off tannerite. 6 to 8 of them. It's like lighting off a cannon. It's ridiculous. A couple of them actually shook my house. There's no need of it. I'm a gun owner, I hunt, but I don't need to shoot 8-10 hours a day. They want to have a contest, that's fine. Take it somewhere else if you're going to shoot for 8 to 10 hours. Thank you.
Well, hang out for a second on the podium just in case anyone on the board has questions for you.
Sure.
That way, because this is going on YouTube and whatnot, so we want to make sure everyone can hear you through the microphone. So questions for Bruce?
Yeah, Mr. Ladd, I'm reading here that the police or some law enforcement
Yes.
agency did come and respond to a complaint, right?
Yes.
Could you tell me about what happened?
I was not there.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But I know of 5 people that called that day.
Okay.
And they didn't show up until my wife saw them go by when she was out on the deck at 4 o'clock, a little after 4. So I walked out to the end of the road and it weren't 10 minutes and he come out of the driveway where it's at and drove down the road and they kept on shooting. So, which I'm assuming because there's no noise ordinance in the town of Lincolnville, there was really not a whole lot they could do. If everything was up to par, which I don't know what he needs to do, what it has to look like, because I don't know what the town rules and regulations are for having a gun range. I know a lot of places have dirt berms behind, so the bullets aren't flying just about everywhere. And as far as I understand, he doesn't. So he's shooting down into the woods, but he could be killing the deer and don't know it, or somebody could be lost walking. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is, as far as I'm concerned, it's not safe if he doesn't have berms. And I just can't handle that noise all day long. I mean, I gotta close the windows in my house, shut the door, turn the TV up 3/4 of the way just so I don't have to hear it.
Yeah.
Tannerite, unfortunately, you can hear through anything, so.
Kern, you had a question?
Yeah, you called it a gun range. Is that your definition of it?
Well, it's,
I'm just trying to figure out how that's coming out and.
because you can hear him hitting targets. And he puts a sign out at the end of his driveway, open range. So I'm assuming he's opening to the public.
It's being advertised?
If he puts a sign out at the road, it is. Whether he does it on Facebook or that, because I don't do Facebook. I don't
No,
even
but
get into
you're
that.
saying there's a sign that goes at the end of the driveway?
He does put a sign out at the
So-
end of the driveway. And I don't know if the town has rules and regulations for a gun range or not. I mean, I've never come down and asked.
Okay.
I mean, he's been doing it since 2017, I believe, is when he first started. And there were a couple of times he was 11 hours nonstop. My neighbor actually took off twice for the day because they couldn't handle it. I have new neighbors, and he won't say anything because he doesn't want to stir the pot, which is, that's fine. If you don't want to stir the pot, then you gotta live with it. I don't want to live with it. I've been there 27 years, and I don't want to deal with it no more. Worst come to worst, I'll just move. I mean, I'm not gonna deal with it. It's not easy for me and my wife, so.
So Bruce, you say you also were pretty straightforward about Tanner, you know for a fact.
Oh, yeah. Well, that or he's lighting a cannon off, take your pick. All I
so-
know is,
So there's two different things there.
well,
I'm trying to.
Tannerite is basically a homemade cannon.
Yeah,
That's basically all it is. It's like shooting off a cannon without a ball in it. It's basically the same thing. I got a friend of mine that does it a couple of times a year during the 4th of July and one other day. And he made it himself, and it's a great big stainless steel piece of metal with about 1.5 inch hole in it. 6 inches deep. You just pack the powder to it and drop a tennis ball in the top and just light her off. Now, whether he has it that way or if he's actually got a cannon he does it with, I don't know.
Making really loud booming noises.
okay,
You go bang, boom.
so,
Yeah.
Oh, it's the feeling.
And
so. Is it just been this year that there's been an open range sign?
no,
Why not? This is the first time
I
I've heard
know,
any of this.
I know.
What's
Thank
this?
you.
Right, didn't hear it from
All right,
your-
oh, hang on, so I just gotta
Hold
say,
on.
so the way this works is that we have a conversation with the person up at the podium. It gets real confusing, and also we wanna make sure the stuff gets on the record. And so if it's just noise in the background, we can't do a good job of making sure, so, well, believe me, we'll get to you, we hear you, but we
Okay.
just wanna make sure that everyone's heard. And-
Sure.
Just one more thing. So
Sure.
I just want to confirm, it was the sheriff's office that was there.
yes.
And what day was it?
It would have been, it was a Saturday, 4 Saturdays ago, 3.
Yeah.
October 13th?
No, September.
Okay. So a while ago.
All right,
Yeah.
all right, also, we're gonna have a conversation with folks up at the podium, yeah, so.
Okay,
so
thank
that-
you.
But did we get that on the mic that it was in September?
September
So
13th.
A month ago, anyway.
Yeah, roughly a month ago. And I'm assuming he stopped because it's hunting season, bow season started. And there are people that hunt down behind my house. So I'm
Bruce, how come you
assuming.
didn't come in sooner?
Well, you know, when it first started, I could take off with my wife. Things were fine, but since she had her stroke, it's not that simple. She has to use a walker.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time, and I wouldn't try to give anybody a hard time about this, but
No.
that was 3.5 weeks ago. How come you didn't say something sooner?
I had to wait for, to get on the agenda to get in
Okay.
here.
Yeah, we had kind of sort of funky.
I wanted to talk to some of the other neighbors and make sure we were
Yep.
all gonna be on the same
Certainly
page.
understand it, certainly understand it.
Other questions for Bruce? Steve, anything? All right, well, you can get out of the hot seat for the moment if you want to. And David, can you provide any sort of background context also regarding this property. I'm curious if you heard anything about a sign at the end of the driveway?
A sign, no, but certainly we had contact, we being myself and the code officer, had contact from neighbors the Monday following the event. And, you know, until somebody wants to be on your agenda, they don't get on your agenda, don't make things up. But it has occurred previously. I don't have dates, but they are right when they say that it's gone on periodically for a number of years, because we've had calls in the past. The town does not have a noise ordinance, so to speak. And unless somebody is running a commercial enterprise, they're not, you know, that type of activity isn't regulated by our land use ordinance. The sheriff's office or state police will, or has the option to pursue a disorderly conduct charge against somebody. When they utilize that, they give the person a warning, you know, basically stop now or stop 3 minutes from now, or, you know, we'll summons you and take you away. From my understanding, based on past things, not at that location, but other noise complaints we've had here in town, the sheriff's office is reluctant to pursue disorderly conduct prior to 10 p.m. But I don't know what the backstory is to that. It's just the way they've interpreted it or what they're willing to do.
Yeah.
Well, it seems that something's wrong with putting a sign out there and inviting people in to do this. And to me, now this is me personally, that is loud and unreasonable noise. That is disorderly conduct to me. The person's advertising an event. I'm hard pressed to believe that that's right. And I want to pursue that. I want to see where we fall with that, because if it's being advertised, I feel it puts it in a totally different category. Now, I am not educated with the legality of this, so we have people who are, and I think we should check into that, because if it's being advertised, it's not like they're advertising a wedding. And personally, I have a problem with that.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of things that have been brought up, but there are, quite a few people here too. Well, Bruce is back up at the podium, but I was just gonna say, we'll listen to Bruce, but, if anyone else wishes to address the board, and the board's amenable to hearing more input on this, through consensus, okay. Then, so when Bruce is done, then we'll work through whoever wants to speak.
The only time we know when he's gonna shoot is when he puts that sign up. Otherwise than
Other than
that-
the noise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
other than the noise, I don't know when he's gonna shoot. I don't know if he, like I said, I don't know if he advertises on Facebook or if he's just with a group of gun gurus that are into shooting guns, especially the AKs. I mean, 15 to 30 clip round in 3 seconds.
So it's an AR?
Oh, yeah, AK, AR, mini 14s, whatever they have. So,
All right, thanks, Bruce. Tom, wanna
I'd
come up?
like to take, I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Tom Dayhoof, 167 Greenacre. I've lived with this for the past 4 years. I'm a gun owner. I'm an 8th generation Hope Mainer. My ex-wife's family is one of the first people to found the town of Lincolnville. I'm a gun owner. I'm not an anti-gun person. The first time this happened, last summer, potentially 2 summers ago, I called the sheriff's department because it had gone on for 6 hours, 7 hours, unknown to us, unannounced to us. The sheriff's department said, "Oh yeah, we'd heard you, we knew you'd be calling." And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, they called us and told us that they were gonna be doing some shooting today, and that they'd probably get some phone calls from people." So you tell me, like, in a town where we're neighbors, and we're supposed to work together, and the people who are doing this can't even come 400 feet down the road to tell me this is going on, someone whom I've never met. I have to learn from the sheriff's department that this is happening, and they aren't breaking any laws, and there's nothing I can do about it. I work hard, 40 hours a week, 50 in the springtime, legally. Where's my right for a quiet Saturday afternoon? These folks, I have seen what they've posted on Facebook. I have seen invites to people.
So they are advertising on it.
Well, I wouldn't say they're advertising to their friends. It's not like, hey, pay $20, come here, blow stuff up. But it's like, and I do believe there are people who are traveling from very far away, out of state, to come here and do this. I don't want to cause any problems. The biggest part to me is these guys couldn't even come to my house and say, "Hey, look, this is what we're doing. Hi, my name is so-and-so. How do you feel about this?" And it's this wrapping themselves in the Second Amendment, and this is what I can do, so I'm gonna do it, and to hell with you all. And it's wrong. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone else? Yeah, please.
Hello, everyone. I've got to read it because otherwise I'll be too nervous.
Don't be nervous.
Hello, everyone. I'm Becky Thompson. My partner Doug and I live on Greenacre Road. And like others here tonight, we are concerned about the active shooting range in our neighborhood. We've lived in Maine since '96 and on Greenacre Road since 2001. We raised 2 sons here and love our home, community, and state. We appreciate living in Lincolnville and the community spirit it embodies. It has been disturbing to have a shooting range in close proximity to our house and yard. When the shooting contests occur, they are incessant, relentless, and extremely loud, lasting 3 to 11 hours with pauses of maybe 10 minutes or so before they begin again. Many types of weapons are used. I'm no weapon expert, but even I can tell there are many different kinds. ARs, pistols, rifles, black powder rifles, and tannerite explosives. The force of it rattles our windows. It's felt in our ears, our heads, our bodies. There's no escaping the intensity of the sound and the anxiety that it provokes. It is not sighting in rifles for hunting or basic target practice. Because of the location of our property, which is fairly close, especially the way our backyard is just adjacent to woods, that the sound travels very clearly. We can hear the pings of bullets as they strike metal. We can hear voices talking loudly, and it is very unsettling. The first major shooting match we recall was 2017. It was shocking as it seemed to come out of the blue. There was no warning or any way of knowing exactly what was happening or that it would continue for 8+ hours. This contest was dominated by tannerite explosions, which sounded and felt like point-blank cannon fire. We had no idea what we were hearing and called Waldo County Sheriff's Office. We were told that one of our neighbors had notified their office that they would be shooting a variety of ammunition that day, including tannerite. We had a hard time hearing each other on the phone because of the background noise of explosions and shooting. An officer went by the house that day to check on the shooting for himself. He was not sympathetic to my complaints or concerns. He couldn't understand that why I would be so upset, because he thought they were doing it in a responsible way. A second, more seasoned officer visited the range towards dark, having received more calls, and strongly suggested that the shooters call it a day, which they soon did. It's a long time ago, 7:30 or something like that. It was, I believe, the spring, so it was dark, getting dark. We were not notified that there would be shooting and tannerite explosions that day, and I don't believe any other abutters were either. And we also had never heard of tannerite before that day. That was our first exposure to the shooting range, and also to the fact that there is no law in place in Lincolnville to protect us from more of the same. Doug and I had hoped it would be a one-time occurrence and that we and others wouldn't need to start the process of finding a solution for the problem. A similar shooting contest has occurred multiple times since. The last two, one was in April and then one was on the 14th of September. Those are the two most recent that were of a length of time. Many among us have resorted to leaving home for the day as a way to contend with the disruption, but not everyone has that option, as Bruce mentioned. Some neighbors have school-aged children, and they have shared with me that when they hear the shooting, especially the ARs, they are reminded of school shootings, which is very stress-producing for them. And there are those of us, like Doug and myself, who have grandkids, and I fear that our little ones will be with us at our property and exposed to the experience, and I wonder how we will explain it to them. The sound is so loud, it's heard in the center, on Maslin Road, on Slab City, at Norton Pond, and on High Street. Neighbors' dogs bark for the duration or try to run off to get away from the noise. Some need their thunder vests or medication. And on the 14th, this most recent day-long episode happened just a week after a neighbor on Greenacre had a wedding reception in their backyard, which they lovingly put together for a family member. And I can't imagine how horrific it would have been for them if they had chosen the following Sunday instead. And lastly, this isn't good for property values. Everyone works so hard on their homes and their properties, and it's just a shame. And I did look up a tannerite explosion, and it is something that tannerite is readily available. And it's a binary explosive. You put together ammonium nitrate and an aluminum powder, and then it's detonated by a high velocity bullet. That is one way that it is used. And I believe that's maybe one of the ways they use it, but it's horrible. Thank you. Any questions?
No,
I wish I had a recording of it.
No,
Yeah.
I'll just add, you're talking about where you could hear it from. I heard that from my house, and I'm on 52 in the Duck Trap River.
Wow.
It's around a mile and a half.
Yeah.
Like diagonal.
Yeah, no, it's massive.
Yeah, we had to close the windows as well.
And then we did, Dwayne, are you gonna talk? Are you gonna speak? Oh, okay, I'll let him speak about the, this went out of my head. You got everyone to sign a petition. A petition was handed in to the code enforcement officer, but I will let Dwayne talk about that.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, come on up.
Dwayne Smith, live on 20 Greenacre Road. And I started this with a petition, I don't know what it was, 2 months, 3 months ago or something. Because my wife and I were coming home from camp and we got right at the intersection of Greenacre, Slab City and 52. We had a signal on to swing on to Greenacre and was all ready to turn onto it when a vehicle shot right across in front of us. So we had to stop. There was 2 more vehicles coming from the center. Both of them cut us off. They went up the straightaway between 52 and Tommy Parish, weaving back and forth across the road, trying to pass each other or whatever. all three of them go right up and pull right into the gun range. Now, I don't think there's anybody in this office that wants hoodlums like that with the guns in their hands around their property anywhere. So this is why I'm pushing this to try to get rid of this, because we don't need that up there. Two of them was from Massachusetts, right? And I don't know where the black one was, they cut us off first. I don't know where that was from, but I do know there was two out of Massachusetts, and what are they doing down here, you know? But I want to try to get something done about it, because it is loud. So I don't know all I can say about it, but I did put the petition into Frank on it, and he wanted me to go and see if I could find out if they were charging for people to come there and shoot. Well, why should I go? We're paying his salary. Why don't he go and find out? Is one of the big questions. So, I don't know. That's about all I can say.
So that particular day, was that, it wasn't the same day as the long-term, this was just like an average day when people
No,
can
it
show
took
up?
me a while to do it because we're busy and.
No,
and
no, but I was
and-
just trying to say, it was just like these people came and did some shooting, it wasn't one of these big days of,
Oh, yeah, it was one
3
of the
to
big
11.
days. They were there for, I don't know, 5, 6 hours shooting and banging away, so. But,
Thanks for sharing that.
okay.
Yeah, appreciate it. Anyone else care to get up and?
Good evening, my name is Russell Bryan, I live at 687 Slab City Road, and it's the automatic gunfire. I'm a hunter, automatic gunfire, it's like school shootings. Just doesn't make you feel good, and I can see why some of the people have to leave their houses and go. You just feel uncomfortable. And if they're coming from out of state, who are they bringing in? Who is qualified to fire automatic rifles? Maybe Lincolnfield should look towards a noise ordinance, something, up until 10 o'clock or whatever, but the gunfires, it's hunting season, boom, boom, you shoot a few shots, tighten your gun in. As long as you're not doing it around the house and you're being cautious, that's understandable. But it's a scary feeling. And I can hear it from my house, like all the way up that field, noise travels. And I feel bad for all these people, they live closer than me. I wouldn't be able to take it. It's disturbing. And it's not a good thing, and I think Lincolnville should stop it because Lincolnville doesn't need an automatic gun range. It's not good for the town, not good for the community, and it's not being a good neighbor. Okay.
Thank you.
I just thought of something.
Sure, come on up to the podium, please, yeah, thank you. And if you need to, you said your mouth was dry, we've got a water cooler just
Thank you.
outside the door, yeah.
One of the officers I talked to, who was this last time was fairly sympathetic. I said, one of our fears is that they will form a gun range. And he said, oh dear, they have a gun range. So it is a gun range. Yeah, because he was there.
Yeah, please, yeah, come on up, yeah.
My name is Wendy Kettner, and I live on the Greenacre Road as well, just up, actually past the pit road. And my sister lives just a house over from them. And she said, and I apologize, I don't have the date, but she said there was one night, one weekend that it was till well after midnight that they were shooting, just nonstop. And when they do the tannerite stuff, we have an older couple that live up on the hill just above us, and they're way up on that hill. And it was rattling their windows up there. They came down, they were very upset. They were scared out of their mind. They thought my house blew up. You know, they called the fire department, they called the police department. It's just, you know, it's scaring them, and they're in their, you know, 80s, and that's not fair. I can't go outside in the summertime, and sometimes it's Saturday and Sunday that they're doing it. I can't go outside, my child have friends over, or we can't go out and just, you know, sit around the fire and, you know, cook hot dogs, have a normal backyard family fun day when it's just monotonous all the way into the night. That's all you hear from first thing in the morning to, you know, late at night. It gets old. It gets really old, especially in the summertime. It's weekend after weekend after weekend. We don't get a break from it. So, yeah. Somebody needs to help us with something, because it's gotta change. Like I said, I'm a hunter. I'm an avid hunter. I shoot guns. We have a little gun range out behind our house that's well banked and put up directly, but we only use it to sight in our guns, or, you know, it's half an hour, maybe an hour at the very most, but that's it, you know. I'd like the money that they're putting into what they're shooting for even the first hour, you know, it's crazy. It needs to change.
Sounds like you could send someone to college for what they're.
Couple of them, I think.
Yeah, Steve.
I'm not sure if anybody could step up and speak to it, but do we have an idea of how many people are out there at any point in time?
I can't honestly say. I've noticed a number of different vehicles with various license plates headed up there. I cannot say. Sort of stalk their Facebook a little bit, see the pictures, see the invitations. For me, again, to everyone who might be watching on the internet, gun owner, not a gun advocate necessarily. The biggest part to me is that these folks did absolutely nothing to tell their closest neighbors what was going on. And I guarantee you, these will be the first folks who feel like they're being infringed upon if something were to come of this. And that to me is it's just unconscionable. You know, if I'm gonna throw a party and have a live band, I'm gonna tell my neighbors that we're gonna be loud. You know, I'm not gonna go blow stuff up and act like I could just do that and not tell anyone. And again, my contact with the sheriff's department was like, yeah, we knew this would happen. So that just further solidifies to me the complete lack of respect for their neighbors. And so here we are.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing to
Yeah,
hear,
it's
you know,
terrible.
is that, you know, I think in general, folks that live here in Lincolnville either have a healthy respect for the traditions of hunting or are hunters themselves, and it's heartbreaking to hear when a neighbor sort of thumbs their nose at that in such a bad, it gives a bad name to the hobbies and pastimes that we all enjoy, and, you know, spoils it for the rest of us, so. Yeah, oh, yeah, sure.
My name is Doug Thompson. I live on 177 Green Acre with my wife Becky. And as everyone has mentioned, this has been going on now, we think, since 2017 is our first recollection of the shooting. And I just want to say that I agree with all that they've said so far, and I've also listened to these shooting contests for many years now, and, you know, the first couple were really surprising, and we thought, well, that will be the end of it, but they've continued, as people have mentioned, and so I just wanted to point out that I discovered on the internet that there's something called nuisance property law, which goes way back apparently, and a nuisance property law has two kind of definitions. There's a private nuisance and a public nuisance, and I guess the difference is a private nuisance just affects one person, and a public nuisance affects a group of people, more than one. And so anyhow, that is part of sort of standard law, and Maine does have a section on shooting ranges under the nuisance chapter 91. And it's here in this little paper I printed out, and it just explains Maine's laws on shooting ranges and what constitutes a nuisance. And so I think from a law standpoint, the Second Amendment protects gun owners, of course, and the nuisance law, well, it's probably maybe the only thing we have to really, try to put some restraint on a range in your backyard. So if anyone's interested, I get copies if people want it.
Actually, if you-
Question, I got a question.
If you'd give that to David and then, because I guarantee you this isn't gonna be the end of this conversation. David will distribute it to us, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, Mike.
I did have a question for you. Really quickly, no, I'm not gonna see that document for the benefit of the people watching. Do you have a state statute number that they can reference
I do.
in front of you? That'd be helpful, I appreciate it.
It's under Title 17 Crimes,
Okay.
Chapter 91 Nuisances, and it's under 2806, sport shooting ranges.
106 or 2806?
2806.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. So, yeah, I really appreciate you all taking time out of your schedules to come in and share your experiences. I'm sorry that it's taken, in some cases, 7 years for it to get to a point, but I guess sometimes things accumulate, right? Noise ordinances were brought up, and the town has pursued in the past noise ordinances that's come up with regards to fireworks. And the town hasn't pursued adopting a noise ordinance in the past, and while they can be handy, the tricky part is enforcement. The town doesn't have the ability, the town being us, doesn't have the ability to enforce a noise ordinance, so we can have one. But then we fall back basically on the Waldo County Sheriff, to enforce that.
The sheriff's office can enforce our ordinances? So if we had an ordinance, can the sheriff's office enforce it? Or are you saying that because we don't have a police force, we can't enforce an ordinance?
Yeah, we don't. It would be a law with no real repercussions, you know what I mean? So you asked 2 questions.
Yeah.
If the town adopted a noise ordinance, would the sheriff's department come in before 10 p.m.? And correct me if I'm wrong, but in previous conversations,
The sheriff's department won't enforce any local ordinance unless you have a contract with them.
right. So that is an
Unless you have a
option.
contract with
That is an
Correct.
option to pursue contracting with the Waldo County Sheriff's Department to enforce our ordinances.
Right.
So
Well, when we got rid of the police force, wouldn't that have been something that we would have considered doing? Was to contract with some other force to enforce our ordinances?
We really don't have
We don't have any to enforce?
well, we have ordinances, but the ordinances, we have land use ordinance, we've got a barking dog ordinance. And various people are charged within those ordinances of enforcement. Code enforcement officer, animal control officer. Harbor master has certain duties under state and local statutes. But in terms of a local ordinance, you all get to decide how that, or the citizens, when they adopt the ordinance, get to decide how that's enforced. The state police and Waldo County Sheriff's Office will not enforce a local ordinance. Even if we contracted with them, my understanding is their preference is to work in the state law because they're familiar with it, and the district attorney will prosecute a state law versus a local ordinance. We have to have the town attorney or some other attorney prosecute that in court. Even if somebody enforced it, even if the sheriff's office scribbled a summons to somebody for a local ordinance, we as a community have to follow through to charge that. So they like to, my understanding is they prefer to revert back to a state statute, whether it be a nuisance or disorderly conduct or any other.
Although it sounds like they've been loath to enforce any of those statutes for.
Well, even beyond,
Effective.
even beyond this, we've had issues in the past with noise from parties or events or.
Other shooting ranges. I remember about 10 years ago.
Parties on the pond, you
Yeah.
know, that kind of thing.
And they, past practice with the sheriff's office has basically been, unless it's after 10 PM, they're not going, and that may have come down to them from the district attorney's office. Perhaps they charged somebody and the district attorney's office wouldn't prosecute it because of whatever reason. So I don't mean to throw my hands up, but that's a conversation that folks could have with the sheriff's office or the district attorney.
Yeah, and I don't wanna get too mired in, pro-noise ordinance, anti-noise ordinance, cause that's a whole other conversation, cause then people are gonna say, what, can I mow my lawn in the morning, or can I cut trees down, or, it's a bigger conversation, and we've got a very real problem that these folks are bringing to our attention, and so, could potentially a noise ordinance address some part of this? Yes, but it takes a long time to adopt an ordinance. So, I guess I'm just trying to work through procedurally what we have, what we have right now for these folks who are upset and frustrated.
Well, I mean, because this is a situation, which I think rises to the level of having a conversation, getting the sheriff's office in here and saying, how does this work here? When you all are called, what goes on? To whom are you beholden? You behold the state statute, your district attorney, how is that all going to work? I think we owe it to these guys to bring them in and have them answer those questions. But more to the point, like to the immediate situation, I'd like to find out what's going on back there. And so we've got to answer the question, who's going to investigate this? Who's empowered to call them up, drive back there, whatever, and find out what's going on? I mean, what really specifically what concerns me, other than the horrific noise, is there's no, I don't think there's any berms back there. If that's the case, rounds are flying here and there, which is a safety thing. Oh,
Right.
you can't have that.
Right.
So there are a lot of unanswered questions. So the question is, who do we get to answer those questions?
Well, and I guess that's what I was gonna say is, I guess the frustrating thing is that it's gonna take a little bit of time for us to figure out what tools we have, how to define the problem. We've got a real clear idea from you all. And Mike, I think you articulated it well. I think we need to have another conversation on a future agenda to really figure out this shooting range thing. There's sign out, there's invitations going out,
Is it a commercial thing? Is it just like these things happen in somebody's backyard? Is it a little bit of both or what?
Well, and as far as what the town has done, or technically speaking, our understanding is that it is not technically a commercial outfit, because as far as we know, they're not charging money. But
Yeah.
I think we owe it to ourselves to take a deeper look at this and say, well, there's a sign going out. There's invitations going out. It's a well-attended event that lasts for a very long time. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a number of different conversations that need to be had that we can't figure out tonight because we just don't have the answers. You know, we get these packets with information on Friday, we read them over the weekend, and then we get this information, and so, you know, I think what I would encourage the board is that we need to put this on a future agenda, and we need to task the people smarter than us lawyers. We need to look into the state statutes. We need to take a little bit of a deeper dive on this, and figure out what our rights and responsibilities are here. And it may not be a noise ordinance, but maybe we're looking at the concept of a shooting range, and what does that mean? And how do we define that? And how do we, you know, how do we protect people's rights to have a small, you know, gun range out behind their house to shoot your hunting weapon in, or even if you want to go out for a half an hour and just shoot at a target with your .22, like, you should be able to do that, but 10 hours of blowing things up is two different conversations.
Speaking for myself and I assume the group, I think we all understand that, you know, this is the first step.
Yeah.
Right, so, and things do take time, and we have to do this properly and correctly, so personally, I understand that, and I'm happy to assist in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I would encourage talking to the sheriff's department, because I was really kind of blown away by my interaction with the sheriff's department over this issue. And so if that's what it requires, is bringing in more people, more opinions, more information, I say go for it.
I was gonna point out that the people who aren't in the room are the people that this property is happening on, right?
Right.
The shooters. Be nice if they were in there to answer some questions.
Absolutely, invite them
And,
in.
yeah, definitely, yeah, so I'd like to be able to do that somehow. The question, it goes back to who's gonna do the inviting, eh?
You are.
Well, we are, right.
Well, okay, so I can pick up the phone and do the inviting, but why can't he can hang up on me, right? Okay,
Well,
and people have hung up on me before, but what about the code enforcement officer, who's authorized to do that? He can't hang up on, that's what I'm getting.
Right, and so
Yeah,
that
well,
person is not here.
Yeah, and we'll,
We'll find that out, yeah.
yeah,
No, I totally get that.
we'll effort
So
towards that.
that's part of the inquiry we gotta do, yeah.
Hi, I'm Nick Fernandez. I live on 256 Green Acre Road. I guess my biggest question that I have is, Beaver Lodge, I'm assuming this, but Beaver Lodge has a firing range. They need special permits for that. I know law enforcement goes down there and does their thing, and that's fine. Northport has a firing range. They have special permits for that. That's my biggest question is, what about the permits? What about, you know, time limit? You know, it's just, when it goes for 11, 12 hours, and it's just nonstop. My mother, elderly lady, she doesn't like guns. She, you know, I'll be honest with you. She comes over, she hears that canner, she's in her car and out the door. We all work. We all have time to sit down and relax and enjoy our weekend. Green Acre Road does not have any relaxation when these things are going on. It's just, there's nothing, it's just nonstop. Somebody said there's maybe 10 minutes of nothing. That's putting it lightly. It's minutes, and then it goes, it's right back at it. And it's the fully automatics. You know, I've been down in the center and hear this for time and time and time again. And it just, I'm not against it, but it's, geez, you know, come on, let your neighbors know. Have some respect. My other neighbor, she's trying to sell her property. She was showing it on a Saturday. How do you think that went? Honestly, so, they turn around and ran. They're not gonna buy, you're not gonna buy a house that's right next to a gun range, an unlicensed gun range, So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, so we're gonna need to do our homework on where the state statutes and state laws support us regarding gun clubs, gun ranges, all of those different kinds of things. And then, okay,
I just want to say one more thing about the police.
okay,
The two different people, I talked to Officer Babcock from Waldo on April 7th, which was when another big shooting was in the spring. He was helpful. He went there and saw it all. He drove in there and checked it out. And then on the 14th, it was an Officer Babcock. And he's the one that said it is a shooting range. So if you talk to someone at Waldo, those two officers would have firsthand information as having been there when they were shooting, because we all were calling to complain.
yeah, and I think we've clearly established there's a problem, we got, let's.
Yes, but you were talking about calling up Waldo, and it's like, well, if you talk to those two officers, they can tell you their opinion as to what kind of a range it was.
Yeah, we got it.
But you said the same name twice.
Oh, I did, it's Weber and Babcock.
Weber and Babcock, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, great, thanks. So, to finish my thought, is that this is gonna be a two-part process, right? We'll do our homework, we will, and then we'll reconvene here in this room at a select board meeting. But also this is a partnership with yourselves also, and I know you've been calling the sheriff's department. I guess what I would say is, use your voices and your firsthand experience to contact the Waldo County Sheriff's Department and issue a formal complaint for a failure to recognize disorderly conduct as defined by the state statute, which it clearly supports everything that you have brought up here tonight. Unreasonable noise for an extent of time, within the state statute as the law is currently written. So if you've called, they've come, you don't feel satisfied, you have a right to complain and specifically say that you would like to see that disorderly conduct aspect being enforced. And then the second piece that is well within your rights and responsibility is to reach out to the district attorney's office. And everything that you've shared with us here tonight, you've called the Waldo County Sheriff's, this has gone on. Everything that you've shared and say, we have not received satisfaction as citizens who are being held hostage by this activity. And so, it's a two-part thing that, if you feel comfortable and safe to do that, I would encourage you to do that, and we will do our part also. Steve, you look like you wanted to. No. And I'm, I hear your frustration, and I think David and I will put our heads together regarding an agenda item and how we can structure it to be as constructive as we possibly can be.
Yeah, I just have another observation to make, because I feel as though perhaps the sheriff's office is hung up on the word unreasonable and figuring it's reasonable that guns make loud noises. But there are ways to mitigate the noise on a gun. And it is unreasonable to not use that to be a better neighbor, right? And I was looking at the broader state statute, and where it goes into a lot of different things, and it talks about sound systems, you can't go over 85 decibels for a sound system. You know, as a neighbor, you can complain, you know, and, you know, and guns, even quiet guns are much, you know, they're higher than 85 decibels. I mean, it's just ludicrous that there's nothing saying that if you want to shoot gun, shoot as much as you want, but you've got to do something to mitigate the sound. There's technology, it's not super expensive. You're gonna spend the money on the gun, you can spend the money to mitigate the sound.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we're gonna have to look into.
Come on up.
I think all of us feel railroaded, you know, we're exhausted with the police department. The fire department has been down there, the ambulance has been down there. Many volunteer people have been down there. And it doesn't go anywhere. I feel like at this point, the police are just rolling their eyes every time we call. And half the time, they don't go. We don't get a call back. We're never told anything about that gun range, whether it's safe or not. And so many law enforcement people, even state police, have gone down in there. And no one has ever said, hey, this is safe, this is not, this, I've heard them say, yeah, they're blowing stuff up down there. Okay, is that safe? Do they have, you know, is it proper? And we're never told anything. So that's why it's come to this,
Yep,
because we're not getting anywhere,
yep,
so.
yep, yeah, we've heard you, and, we'll keep you all in the loop, you know, as these conversations progress, so that hopefully you can come and say your piece also. So thank you. I'm sorry we don't have any answers right now.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing that,
Yeah.
I'm a gun range, I go to gun ranges, I'm a member in Jackson. Nick mentioned, the one over here locally in Hope.
Yeah.
All of the actual official gun ranges don't allow Tannerite. It's against their bylaws, because it's too much of a disruption to the community. Even at gun ranges where, yeah, there could be people there from sun up to sundown shooting, like in Jackson, the neighbors know it, because the gun range has been there for longer than they have. They don't allow certain things, they have acceptable behaviors. It seems to me that they're doing this because they can't go to other places, so they've kind of created this on their own to allow them to do these things that you can't do at some other ranges.
Yep. But again, you know, I absolutely see and hear the frustration, and we appreciate you, you know, taking an hour out of your Tuesday evening to come in and share this with us. And so now we'll do our homework and talk again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
I'm really sorry that there isn't just something here that we can do. I really am.
Yeah.
Feel your pain.
We all recognize this is a process. First step.
Can I interest you in staying for the rest of the meeting?
Come on, we're so much fun.
We're gonna talk abandoned quarries.
Okay, you're excused. The rest of you, we're gonna lock the door. We gotta have people here.
Yeah, nice try,
Good night, thanks.
Good to see you guys.
You didn't even say hello, Karen, I'm a little.
I love you, buddy.
Okay, good. Steve, you went to the wife from the school district. Very good. Thank you all very much, what a problem.
I have one question. Actually, it's more for the board, but
Yeah.
is this a consequence of, I mean, is this part of what you have to expect by not having the police force anymore? If we had a local, still had our police force, would they be able to enforce a noise ordinance or something?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of conjecture as to what we could do, what could happen.
Right.
But we've got like an issue to tackle here.
Yeah, we really need to work on defining the problem, and part of the issue is that he doesn't fall under the category of a commercial entity. So how do we define what it is in order to look at how we can address it? It's an issue.
This situation could happen in numerous towns around the state. Most towns don't have a noise ordinance that ever comes down to doing it in a place where it doesn't affect anybody, or not having respect for your neighbors, or and such. Yeah, it's really what.
Yeah, it's a gray area, and people turn to a noise ordinance because, well, it's loud. But again, noise ordinances are complex and highly subjective. And so I would encourage this board to look at this problem from another perspective, away from a noise ordinance, because it's like a big old Band-Aid that isn't gonna solve the problem.
It doesn't change people's behavior.
Right.
And things like this, I mean, we've actually done it at Jackson Range. You go 100 feet away, and people are shooting you have a decibel meter.
Right.
It's sitting at 79, 81. And
But that's
decibels is not,
because the club took responsibility and had berms and.
no, it's because you walk a little ways away, and it's not that piercing sound that's wrecking your eardrums as soon as you get a little ways away. It's a nuisance issue more than anything. And I guarantee they could probably, without the tannerite, they could get away with shooting all day long and not having a decibel issue. And so anybody would pull up and say, yep, we're safe from a noise issue. Yes, if they didn't do the tannerite.
So the question is steps that we can take next. Is it appropriate to add an agenda item with our representatives from Waldo County, who will be here on the 28th, correct? If we give them a heads up.
That was the current schedule to talk about traffic.
Yeah, but if we gave them a heads up and request.
Oh, I would definitely give anybody coming a heads up that there's more to the.
Yeah.
I think the situation is urgent enough that I think we could ask them to make sure you address that issue.
I mean, as a separate agenda,
Oh, well, I don't know if you want to do a separate.
No, that would be the respectful thing to do,
Okay,
is to
sure.
not sandbag them with,
No,
hey,
but-
by the way.
No, but
this
give
is
them
your
advance notice, by all means.
fault. But, yeah, and I don't know, maybe David, you and I can put our heads together about another aspect of this conversation.
Yeah, it's like anything we do. You have to know where you start, where you are, what the starting point is. You have to know what your goals are.
Right.
And then you can find many avenues or options to get from A to B and
Right.
where you are to where you want to be. And then you assign the rules, the laws, the cost to it,
Yep,
and pick a path.
yep,
Or decide you don't want to abandon ship and don't want to do anything.
yep.
It's the same thing over and over again.
As our representative on the county budget committee, I have to say the single largest budget item is the sheriff's and the jail. And, they certainly have the resources. They ought to be enforcing nuisance laws and,
Well, they have the resources, but do they have the personnel?
well, to me, resources
It's our personnel.
is personnel. too,
Well, and
but
is it a top,
it's not a priority.
Yeah. That's the, so we'll continue this conversation. To be continued. So moving along to potentially less fraught topics, we have the first amendment to the escrow agreement for Harbor Ridge subdivision, Rocky Top Terrace. If there's no issues with that, then I'll entertain a motion.
I move the board authorize the town administrator and board chair to sign on behalf of the town the first amendment to escrow agreement between the town and Stephen Library.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And David, would you care to give a brief preamble of where we're at with number 9?
Sure. As Deputy Harbor Master and I told you quite a while ago, we were gonna hire a contractor to remove moorings that were in our harbor that were not, in conformance with the ordinance. We did that. Some of the moorings didn't come up, so they're still in the bottom, but the chain came and the buoy came, and some got hauled to the beach, some got hauled up here to the sand salt building, the others that are on the beach eventually are gonna work their way up here. We have found the rightful owners of several of those moorings that have been claimed, and we have some that are just left over. Rather than just, I mean, we can just let them sit around if we want, but they're not doing us any good sitting around. The suggestion was that we move to sell those as a lot so that somebody else becomes somebody else's headache versus us taking 20 people over there and showing them one mooring and, you know, one mooring and selling them one at a time. Thought we'd just put it out to bid and be done. As is, where is, you pick them up by a certain date or forfeit your money.
Sounds good. Would someone care to make a motion?
I move to have the abandoned moorings be declared a surplus. The bids be sought for sale of the moorings as a package.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And moving back into an area of fraught correspondence, we have a response from the Maine DOT regarding the ferry terminal project, and I certainly took a lot of notes. I don't know if anybody wants to start. It's not me, in terms of response to their response. David and I had gone back and forth about whether to put this in the non-agenda item, just to sort of, oh, here's the response, and I thought, you know, no, this is, they're making decisions faster than we can get wind of them, and it really does affect our infrastructure and our community, and so I thought, you know, this should be on the agenda every moment it can be.
Okay, well, my immediate reaction to reading this letter was to thank them for responding.
Sure,
To the extent that they did respond, but there's a lot that they didn't respond to.
Yes.
And so I think it's worth our while. I don't know. What we'll get out of it is just simply send them another letter saying, you did not answer these questions, A through Z. Please give it another shot, folks.
Yeah. Or
What else can we do?
Offer clarity.
Well, yeah, you can probably say it better than the way I just said it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I can think of. I mean, there's just a lot of unanswered questions here, like, well, I mean, yeah, so like, who is responsible for unanticipated aspects to the electrical supply, et cetera? Who does own this?
Right.
That type of, you know, who will maintain this? All that kind of stuff.
Well, why don't we go through the letter, and the responses in that sort of sequential order, that way, as board members have thoughts or contributions they can get in minutes, and then we can draft a response. I totally agree, and I would love a nod in consensus that we should formally respond to this response.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know.
There's a number of, there's no depth in these answers.
Right.
A few there are, most there aren't.
Right. So the first one being, impact to our grid. You know, that rankles me because I feel like there's a double speak here where charging times are limited due to high demand charges. CMP conducted a load study and there's ample capacity and there's no anticipated, but they're still limiting to the amount of energy they can take. and when they can take it. And that, to me, says that there's a danger zone. If can they specify what happens if they do exceed it? I don't want to hear there shouldn't be any problems,
Right.
because as we all know, in the real world, should, and in, the long term, might happen. I feel like we're owed that load study and the parameters under which they are charging, and the specific charging times and schedule. Let's see the data. The wave screen, anything there? They've noted that. I mean, certainly.
That's a non-answer, if ever there was one. Yes, we've noted this.
But at the public meeting, the engineer sat up and took notice immediately, particularly when the ferry captain said,
Right. It's not gonna work.
and they said, we're gonna meet with you. And so while it wasn't called out here, they definitely sat up and took note with that.
Should we ask more specifically and say, in response for this bullet item, we know that the ferry captain brought this up in the public meeting and you were going to have further meetings with them, with him.
Right.
What's been the result of that?
Yes.
Are you using his comments to change your design?
Yes, yeah, thank you, yeah. And then will the ferry be berthed in Lincolnville overnight? What are the emergency medical service considerations? So the thing that made me sit up and take notice is Maine DOT's long-term strategic plan is for the entire ferry fleet to be berthed on the mainland rather than on the islands.
Was that a little vague for you?
Well,
specific?
having grown up on one of these islands, there has been a long-standing tradition of ferries being berthed on the islands for emergency evacs, because as is so blithely put, islands may be required to call US Coast Guard or Life Flight or there's times when the weather does not permit and the ferry quite literally is the only thing that can make it through the types of conditions. Granted, Islesboro is much more protected community, but still, to just say, well, you'll figure it out. So I would like to see specifically who drafted that long-term strategic plan? When did they decide that that was what they were going to move to? Who is the author of that decision, and when was that decision made, and has that decision been communicated to our island communities? Because our island communities, having spoken with a number of the people that run EMS services on our offshore islands, are still operating under the assumption that there is a policy standing that there will be ferry service supporting them.
At the very least, whatever DOT's policy is, they have to give municipalities, whether it's Islesboro or us, proper notice to get this, to arrange for alternate transportation, to have a contract with Quicksilver or whatever you do, to make those things happen. They gotta give us time to make these things happen.
Yeah.
They can't just say, by the way, we've got a strategic plan,
Right,
and just drop that in our laps.
right.
So yeah, so we do want to see the data and say, what is the timeline, I guess,
Right.
on.
And who made this decision, and how did they come to that decision being the most effective thing to do? Because a lot of their other decisions are predicated on the ferry living here in Lincolnville. So the Rapid Charger and the Dolphin that cannot be moved. I'm not sure what we can respond to that.
Well, they said that they're gonna look at the footprints to mitigate this concern. But I'd kind of like to know how they're looking at it, I guess is the question. If we're going so far as to ask for access to the data. This is one of the things I'd like to know about without how they arrive at that decision. So whatever system.
I was talking to Nick Heel about this specific one, and it just kind of came up that it's a double-ended ferry, propulsion at both ends.
Right.
Why can't they just dock the ferry the other way, and the dolphin will be on the other side?
Right.
And yeah, they don't want to rotate, they want to be able to go straight out, straight back. They haven't built either dolphin on either side, can the one on the other end be on the other side?
Right.
So that was really the,
It seems to be something that they, again, have failed to interface with the entities that are going to actually be operating the ferry. You know, it's like desktop design, but are you talking to the ferry crew who could potentially very easily say, well, we just do it the opposite way, it's not a big deal. But has that conversation happened? Because at that public hearing, yeah, it was quite clear that they hadn't been in the loop either in terms of how this thing was being put together. My question, I don't know, maybe David, you can just answer this here and now, but if they're starting to encroach on our harbor space with dolphins and structure that could potentially impede our fishermen or any of our boaters' ability to get into that interior hoist or the interior float face, we have a submerged land lease with Army Corps of Engineers. Correct?
For the pier and the floats, yep.
Yeah. So.
Does not extend to where they're putting the dolphin.
Okay, but is the Army Corps of Engineers involved in this design?
The Army Corps of Engineers will be, they'll have to obtain a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, whether it can be a general permit or a specific.
Okay.
Depends on the project. But it may be worth our while to find out. I mean, one of the questions we asked was about permitting, but certainly the Army Corps oversees all navigable waters, and if you're impeding upon navigation, which a big concrete block would do.
Right. I mean, it's all well and good for them to get their ducks in a row, but then if there's a conflict for us.
Well, it's challenging from a schematic or a preliminary plan to know the impacts, but the charging dolphin itself is clearly shown on the north side of the pen. It clearly shows an encroachment, what I would say, outside of the line between the existing dolphins. You know, if it was inside that line, no big whoop-de-doo, but every inch you go beyond that line impacts somebody somehow. And the more inches you go, the more impacts you have and the more people that are impacted.
Yep.
And at some point, it might be far enough that the south side of our float system and the second backup hoist is useless to us.
Right.
And I think that would be something that we would be remiss not to keep pounding at.
Yeah, and so perhaps our response calls that out specifically, is that if the design remains current, you will be affecting these aspects of our harbor functionality.
And you're also talking about specifically asking them about the turning the ferry so that the docking station.
Yeah, so that all that stuff could go on the other side.
And if you think about that over to
It would have to-
Islesboro, it would end up being towards there.
Well, they won't have a rapid charger out there,
Yeah,
because
they
they don't have the two-phase power, that's why
Okay.
they gotta plug in somewhere.
they
But
have
not
a
the-
trickle charge.
They're gonna plug in a totally different way.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah. The rapid charger's only on the
it's
Lincoln.
only here, so,
They don't have the power
And the
out
dolphin
there.
is only for rapid charging.
Right. But it's also, you know, the boat's longer than it is wide, and plan is up here, so if it's turned around, that means the charger's gonna have to be a lot farther out, the Dolphin, for that charger versus.
It's just money, Robin.
Well,
It might have been, it might have been, this is me talking, this is my harbor master hat on. It might have been nice if, when they were doing some preliminary design of the boat, they communicated that they were going to do this, because somebody might have said, hey, you know, on this side, there's nothing, on this side, there's all sorts of activity.
Just design the boat to have it on
Just
the other side.
mirror your plans and
in
you're
this digital
done.
age, you'd think they could easily mirror the
They
plan
could.
already.
And
And even with it out to bid, it's like, okay, everybody, yeah, flip it.
And hence our frustration, pulling our hair out, like, wow, how come we are having these conversations now? So both the electrical service and the fiber internet service disruption, relocation, et cetera, both cause little red flags to pop up too, with the town of Lincolnville having an agreement put in place in both cases.
Yeah, I mean-
I know we have agreements with that sort of thing, but.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it is, right now, we don't have to maintain anything. If the power goes off because the wire got tangled, you call 1-800-CMP Fix Me,
Right.
and they come and do it. If with, I don't know, rising sea levels, and the conduit gets inundated twice a day, does it then corrode faster and
Right.
then breaks 2 years in, and then we own it?
Well, that's what I was reading though, they're saying that's a responsibility of CMP per utility accommodation rules, I'm not sure what that is, but.
But not with fiber though, which will be also in its own conduit, correct?
No, maintenance.
They say on both of them.
Same
it's-
thing.
Same thing on both of them, that
The
there's
utility
utility
provider.
accommodation rules.
We own it.
CMP is one of them,
but
and
we need
the
to-
other is the fiber internet service.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, where's the language
Yeah.
that supports that from CMP, where they're going to assert that if something goes wrong with our fiber or our electrical, and are we going to have input on a draft and approval of this draft agreement, or are they planning on just handing us an agreement that we have to sign?
What if you don't?
Right, those are my questions, and what if we disagree with the agreement and we refuse to sign it, then what? So.
Margaret K. Smith comes back out of mothball.
You know, anything more on that?
This is, the further we go, the worse it sounds.
Yeah. Well,
It's not, none of this is insurmountable. It's just a matter of awareness and mitigating challenges. I mean, there are advantages to wires being conduit underground too. They're not overhead, they don't get torn down, they don't get
yes.
whatever. But there has to be some general understanding of why and who ends up owning and maintaining it.
Right, we don't want to end up in, sort of a no man's land of oversight where, our camera's down for an entire summer. For example. And, and so it just, it seems like the logical and the respectful thing to do, that we would be part of drafting this language, as opposed to being notified that we will have an agreement in place before it goes out to bid. Okay, what does that look like? Do you have a draft of that? Is that something we draft? Who does CMP draft that? Who? There's a lot of vague and yet very authoritative language. And then regards to the e-house,
I can't believe that there's not requirements for the fire department was my issue all
Yeah.
along. And, I mean, I'd like to, we need to see a full specification for what that e-house is going to be, and then allow,
Our fire department needs to vet,
well, our fire department's gonna have to find somebody to help them vet it,
yeah,
because they're probably not gonna have the skills themselves to vet it and say, yep, we're all set, or no, we need additional equipment and or training.
because if what they're talking about is that it isn't going to be, you know, say, a diesel generator, that's why it's gonna be quiet, but if it is a building chock full of lithium batteries, they haven't actually really said what's going to be in it yet. But, as you said, Steve, yeah,
We need to be able to vet that before this is finalized.
Yeah,
So I guess really we're just asking for we'd like to see the full specification to the e-house as early as possible, and we'll have the fire department and whatever resource required.
Yep, and get back to our feedback input. And then the statement, you know, the entire ferry operation will be quieter than it currently is now. And again, it's based on what and verified how? Are we talking about a decibel comparison? Are you saying that the diesel engines are never going to be running, that I mean,
I go back to their first discussion of, are you gonna be able to go all day long on electric? We don't know. Are you gonna be able to go just a way across and then go diesel way back? We don't know.
Right.
Every answer was, we don't know.
right, so a statement like that, it will be quieter than what is currently in place now. Where is the data to back that up? Please confirm.
It's not electric, it should be, but should is not the answer.
Right. And what else in the balance of this?
The one they were specific is they gave us similar contract language for the next question.
Yeah.
That was one of their more specific answers.
Yep,
I'm like, okay, that's
yep,
doable.
yep. And, yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna, then the next bullet point down regarding the wave screens and changing the shoreline. They really don't answer this. They simply, it's one of those should not significantly change. And it'd be nice to get, that's definitely nice to get the data on that. Why do you say that, folks? And
Can we also
Oh.
ask them, should it actually change? What is
what's
our
gonna-
recourse? What
what's
are they,
gonna happen
are
if
they
it
going
does
to
happen?
remediate it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, that's what, I mean, the company I work for, we don't do ocean stuff, but we do lots of other modeling, and I understand here, they're saying, okay, we've done some modeling, it doesn't look like it's gonna be, it's like, okay, that's probably all well and good.
But what if it does, right?
And so there always has to be something in there, to address that.
yeah, and so if it does, then,
Will you do an evaluation each of the following 3 years to confirm that cartography hasn't changed?
Yeah.
Something.
They'll probably, I don't know if they will, if the state will require the state to do that, but when we did the wave break down there at the stone, we're required to survey the beach annually,
yeah,
and we do. It may be something where we ask the DEP to relieve us of that responsibility, since we've demonstrated ours hasn't, and somebody else is now going to build something new out there. Why should we continue to monitor something that doesn't change when?
yes,
And this is totally out of our control now.
yeah, yes, exactly that. MDOT sign an agreement, the MDOT shall enter into an agreement where. Okay, anything else here, other than them just saying they'll do what they want?
well, yeah, they're talking about how, when they say no DOT projects don't go to local planning boards, fine, well, all and good if that's the way it is, but I would like to ask them, based on what, language, what document, why are you saying this?
And he told us that at on that
Yep.
video call we had, he's like, yeah, we've already addressed legal counsel, and this is.
We're not required.
No state project
Yeah,
required to go through.
you know, and
Yeah.
So there's probably something in state law, but
Right, that may,
what is it?
I just like them to cite that, that's all.
Yep, okay.
So that's fun. Anything else there?
Well, I think you got, well, you have your work cut out for you with the
Yeah.
second letter. Could be longer than the first.
You know, I feel like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
All right, moving on then, and not completely unrelated, we have an invitation from the Islesboro Select Board for a joint meeting. And this is an opportunity for us to kind of begin to draft an agenda. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts. Mike, were you on the board when we ever met with?
No, never was, no.
Okay.
No, COVID. I came
Yeah.
in as COVID hit.
All right,
So they had to go
Great.
again.
great, yeah, and they have a pretty new board, or entirely new board from when we,
I think, was Shay on the board at?
Shay was,
At
yeah.
the very end?
Yeah.
Or the last one we met, I
Yeah.
should say at the very end.
Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna throw out there that I recommend that we do sort of a recap of kind of where we were when we last met and what we talked about. Since there's enough newness on both boards
would
to say,
appreciate
you
that,
know,
yeah.
here's kind of where we left off, what we chatted about, and have that segue into, you know, looking at updating our joint goals, priorities for the facility that we both use, and then I think that will naturally transition into the Ferry project and joint concerns.
I feel that somehow our conversation has to indicate a timeline on certain things, because we've talked to them about things that we're going to get taken care of. We did talk to them about things would be taking baby steps, some of the stuff. We've achieved a lot of those things. I think I just want to jog memories. I'd like to be able to, okay, this is when we did floats, you know, because they use our floats.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, not that we need one right now, but these are targeted for this year. I think it's important that we have something right in writing about the place for people to stand.
Yeah.
That has not even come up on an agenda yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel that is very important because they are contributing money. But that, and I feel they increase that themselves, which is so greatly appreciated. But I just, and also, I want to hear what they think. How do you think that, you know, what needs to be better? You know, not that it's going to happen, of course, but
Sure.
just, I'm disappointed we haven't met with them, but we're all busy too, you know, turnover of boards, all that stuff, we get it.
I think it's great. I'm really glad that you reached out.
Yeah.
You know, we'll start
Absolutely.
fresh. Build on what we've had. Yeah.
One out of my head was, I'm amazed how many people around town I talk to and they've never been in a hospital. And so there's probably nothing we can do, but I'd love to explore. I mean, how do we, it's a great community next to us.
How do we get these two towns together?
But how do we invite people from, I mean, they're coming here, they come through Lincolnville all the time.
Yep.
But very few people from Lincolnville go out there. It's amazing. I love going out there. I was just at a thing the other night, the guy's like, I can't believe it's been 10 years, I've never been there. Yeah. Whatever, it's just like.
I hear you,
There's
Steve.
not much to do there. I mean, when I was a kid, there was a general store, you could get ice cream, they have that really nice park down at the bottom. You know, you could take your bikes out and go
Right,
riding,
That's good.
but, I mean,
There's some, right, and that's actually part of the beauty of it. It's not this super commercialized place or whatever, but and maybe they don't want us out there.
Well, no, yeah, no, that's exactly what I was gonna
always
say,
figured that
Stephen.
was part of why the ferry was so expensive, was that
No,
they didn't want.
yeah, no,
want us
yeah,
out there.
I think that might be the first reaction we get from them when we.
That's fine.
Then they
That's
say,
fine.
well, you know what, it's, we can only take so many people at one time. And they're, I mean, they sigh a huge breath, huge sigh of relief after the tourist season. You know, and they-
We
I
like you
think-
where you are.
That's right, thank heavens, we're by ourselves now.
I would like to, I don't know if, we talked about the parking issue on our end
Yes.
of it ever. If you've been out there, the parking issue on their end is abysmal. I don't know if the state's ever looked at, I mean, if the state's doing something on this end, is the state doing anything on their end to address the parking over there. That is a huge issue as well. And then totally separate from any of that stuff, I would love to inquire as to their internet. It's been quite a few years now,
Oh, yeah.
and they've
How's
got their
that- how that's
fiber,
going?
they've got their fiber deployment, and just a quick, if they could share with us how that's going and what their support's been like. The HWI is their partner in delivery.
You can actually find, on, a discussion that the broadband committee had with them, a couple of the people on YouTube. It was recorded, so it's available someplace.
And we figured we're gonna have an hour and a half, maybe,
Probably an hour
of
and a half.
actual functional meeting time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Prioritize.
yeah.
No, if we're on the 5 o'clock boat out of here, gets us there at 5:20. You find a car, get a ride to the town office at least 5:30. You have introductions, blah, 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 blah. And we're on the Quicksilver's running at 7:30. I'm gonna be on it. I don't know about the rest of you, but it's election week and I'll be done, so.
I mean,
There's only so much.
yeah, we're gonna have to like try to hit the high topics and basically have this be the start.
Right, the private boat thing, just
I wish.
bring us back.
All right, anything else come to anyone's mind that we should,
No, it just sounds like a recap and a restart
yeah.
for this first meeting.
Yeah, and then I think planting the seeds, like, here's this.
Yeah.
Can you give us a brief update on this? And then, let's try to schedule, as we had done previously, scheduled quarterly meetings, and then your brain's already sort of getting excited for the next things to expand upon. All right. So December meeting schedule. David, do you wanna?
I'm gonna be out of the office for a period of time in the middle of December and won't have time to put together a packet for your 23rd meeting. So you can either go packet list, agenda list, or we often do a warrant-only meeting around the Christmas holidays or the end of the year holidays. You tell me, or you can meet on the 30th.
What does everybody
if you
want to
wanna.
do? Do we want to squeeze in a warrant-only meeting on the 23rd or postpone until the 30th?
Yeah. I'm gonna go.
And that way, if an emergency thing comes up too, we can address it without too much time going by. All right, sounds good. And you'll just have to remind me that you'll be gone on the 30th.
If we need it.
It's in there, but. Okay, and updates. Kern, what do you got for us?
I do not have stuff.
All right. Mike, what do you
I
got
did
for
a
us?
couple of few things real quick. And one is that I went to the MMA convention, and there were a couple of great workshops, which I think the town should follow up on. One is that, I mentioned this to David, is that the Governor's Office of Planning and something initiative, GOPIF, has started a main Office of Community Alliance, It's a one-stop work, supposed to be. It's either another layer of government, or it's gonna be a useful tool for municipalities to find out what the hell's going on in Augusta, what, grant opportunities, et cetera, programs are available. So heretofore, we might be wanting to work with them rather than go to separate agencies. The idea is, don't go to DOT, don't go to this, that, and the other thing. Go to this office, they will direct you, type of thing. That's come online, and, which is cool. The other thing I went to a cool report on assessing STRs, and a lot of it kind of in the weeds, but one thing I got out of it is that it might be in the town's interest to have an assessor, if not our assessor, an assessor come and explain, at a public meeting, especially when others can hear, this is how it works. This is how it's affecting your property taxes. This is what we look at, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's, myself, I tend to think there's a need out there for people to understand how it works. And it helped me out too, enormously. Cool. And the last thing I want to mention, real quickly, is that the woodshed is starting distributing firewood on 11/9. That's Saturday, November. So calls to the woodshed to get wood will start. They'll start taking calls last week in October. And I don't have the number off the top of my head, but David always finds it and puts it on the website.
And just for people's benefit and knowledge, they just can't go over there and help themselves
Oh,
24/7,
thank you for
365.
reminding me. Every year you remind me.
This is
Yeah.
a call and get an appointment.
That's
They
right.
don't deny anyone, but please call in advance
That's
so
right.
that they can be scheduled
Call that
and
they
they can make sure that they have wood available for you. Don't just show up and help yourself on Sunday night.
Exactly, and there'll be 2 hours on a Saturday that you come by and you go, they will schedule you to show up at one of the distribution depots. And volunteers will help you put in a quarter cord of wood, to which you are allowed every 2 weeks. Unless it's an emergency situation, and we'll get some wood to you.
Great, thank you. Steve, any updates for us?
The new facilities management committee for the school had its first meeting. Very productive. They walked through the integrity, the structural integrity of the building, safety and security. I mean, really broke it down into individual systems, etc. I was there today, actually, talking to Justin some, and there's no heat today, as the circulating pumps were totally offline. Whatever. The boiler was the second, one of the two boilers, the ones working. But through that process, they've been ranking things as low, medium, or high. And there is a list of items which are being thought of as immediate needs. I'll mention those quickly. One's the intercom system that does not work for free. It is a huge safety issue and needs to be addressed. They're looking at that. The front doors, there's no the door, unlock it, and that does need to get addressed. There's some discussion of this, but there's no video per se of that front entrance working. HVAC, or the boilers and the pumps, they've got to get some quotes and stuff on that. And then the emergency lighting is probably a low budget item, but the emergency lighting system, even with batteries replaced, many of the emergency lights are not. It's oftentimes cheaper just to replace the light than it is to replace the battery. Yep, it is. As part of that, they have been going out and getting proposals already. They've gotten some that are a little scary in pricing, but it's moving forward that way. And we haven't scheduled the second meeting yet. The second meeting is part of it is going to be a walk around for all members of the committee to It's impressive what's been pulled off so far.
Good, that's great, substantial,
Yes.
cool, thank you. Robin?
Just the Waldo County Budget Committee, we've had our first couple of meetings. We structured it more efficiently this year, having more knowledge now of, who we have to talk to, who don't need as much from. And we managed to get a huge chunk of stuff already done. And we have our second meeting with the departments tomorrow. And only 3 are scheduled to come in, and that should actually be a pretty quick night. We've saved the best for last, sheriff, jail, and DA's office.
Right.
And we should be done before Thanksgiving.
Cool. Nice, yeah.
Yeah. And I hate to, I won't throw a number out. It's not as scary looking as last year, but it still is possibly double digit increase.
On top of the 18.8% we got this year? Wow.
Okay, budget season is nigh upon us, and I just had a couple of things. The workforce housing, the MCOG associated workforce housing meetings have been postponed until November because of various people's schedules. So early November, we're hopefully picking back up with that. And last week I participated in the first of the post-incident review board at the Waldo County Sheriff's Office. And so that will be a long process, fascinating. Can't really expand more on it, but yeah, really grateful for the in-depth comprehensive review internal reflective process that they're going through.
Can I just, to answer what Dave said at the very end there, the budget thing, the far and away the biggest share is the jail, which we have no control over.
Yeah.
Just want to say, honestly, our county does an excellent job of controlling costs, and they're doing all that they can.
So we're, not to quiz my bosses, but why not? So a number of years ago, they capped jail costs. Is that cap gone away? Or not?
No.
Not cap?
Right.
Oh, it was a cap.
Well, but this, I don't have enough detail to answer
It's all
to.
right.
There is a cap,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't seem to,
Matter.
right, it doesn't seem to work like a real cap, like, it's a very,
I mean,
It's a cap plus.
that was, the idea behind that, just for those of us that hadn't been around forever, was basically property tax relief. We'd cap the jail costs at this and require towns to pay that, and then the state was gonna make up as the cost increased, the increase in costs, so that all of us property owners didn't end up picking up the costs. But what the state give us, the state taketh away, I guess.
All right, thank you everyone for the updates. We do have the treasurer and payroll warrants to approve and sign.
I move the board approve and sign the treasurer's and payroll warrants.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And if there's no other business,
I
the
do
board.
have one more
yeah,
thing.
please.
As we go through our meetings and our upcoming meetings and everything, I am really sorry about this, I should have told you. I am not gonna be here the last week of the month. I'm on Busan.
okay.
The 27th through the 2nd, and I know the 28th was gonna be,
We're not bumping them again, Karen.
I wanted to meet with him,
Yeah,
but there's nothing I can do.
okay.
All right,
I'm sorry.
all right, thank you for the heads up.
Well, Karen, if you got, a list of questions, get them in, right? I mean, if you don't mind us
I
asking
have
those
some very
questions.
candid comments.
Well, yeah,
Which they've already heard, but I certainly can get some stuff on paper, so
that'd be
that
great, yeah.
concerns around town.
Send an email to
to David and myself, and it'll get in the packet. All right, if there's nothing further, I'll entertain the final motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Second. Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much.